One of the transitions that families with Alzheimer's make involves going from a lifestyle that's active to a routine that may become increasingly isolated from friends and from outside activities that you've always enjoyed. The day may come when it's no longer possible to go out with your loved one. In the meantime, there are ways to adapt activities so you can still enjoy outings and visits with friends.
My mother goes to church with us every time we go, which is usually 3 times a week. And she is fine as long as she is right next to me. If she loses sight of me, she gets in a panic state.
Well, it's very important that an Alzheimer's person actually still stay engaged in life and participate as much as possible. So if there are family activities that they can go to, that they can have some interaction with their grandchildren or their children or close friends, we usually advise them to keep the group small, 1, 2, 3 people, not have lots of people or lots of stimulation. But we would encourage them to continue to have social relationships and to participate in activities that they used to enjoy with somebody.
Social life and social activities change with Alzheimer's disease. When the person is initially at home, many families find that they have to shorten visits out, they have to shorten exposure to large groups of people, or they have to limit exposure to smaller groups.
Alzheimer's changes almost everything about the reality in which our loved ones exist. And yet for many, their spirituality can still play an important part in that changing reality. And it can become even more important in sustaining those of us who are caregivers and carrying a burden that never seems to end.
One of the day programs that we took her to in the very beginning was a program conducted at the Jewish Home for the Aged. And I think that because of the rituals that were provided there, they would have Friday services, that I don't know this for a fact, but I like to think that that did give her some comfort.
A lot of our patients have very strong spiritual beliefs, and this may actually be something that is helpful in helping to work with a person with Alzheimer's disease. It may be talking to them about prayer, or asking them to pray with you, or using religious songs or service, or referring to the Bible may have a calming effect or help you as you work with an individual with Alzheimer's.
In the back of our minds, we know the day will probably come when it's time to go, when we can no longer adequately care for our loved one in the home and should let professionals in a care facility take over. That knowledge doesn't make facing this day any easier. Having other knowledge, though, can be very helpful at this time of transition.
There's going to be a time in any caregiver's life that the individual they're taking care of, they can no longer do that. That's recognized usually by somebody outside the family.
In the early stages, when I have trouble handling my checkbook, cooking for myself, maybe remembering when it's time to take a bath, I could live in a generalized assisted living building, or I might even be able to stay at home with home health or some companions coming in. But as the disease progresses, I'm really going to need a physical environment that's designed to help me be successful. And I would check both assisted living and skilled care.
It's a very difficult decision. It's a very traumatic decision. For the most part, people will talk about it, and that's my own personal experience, as the worst day of your life when you have to literally place someone in a long-term care facility. But people are well cared for in long-term care facilities.
By the time placement was ready to happen, our family was not speaking. And because I actually worked at the nursing home that she was in at the time for her therapy, I was the one to do it. And I remember that day so vividly, getting her out of the car and putting her in the wheelchair and rolling her in the front door was the most difficult. Behind her, I couldn't control the tears.
Families have to be vigilant in assessing the quality of care of their loved one when they're in a facility or when they're being cared for by a paid home care provider.
The average person suffering from Alzheimer's lives between 7 and 10 years after being diagnosed. The final result is always the same. And yet, even though we know that death will come, this last transition can be the most difficult of all.
Grief and bereavement issues are very different in Alzheimer's disease because there's a prolonged anticipatory loss of the person as you once knew him or her.
A lot of times families grieve the loss of their loved one when the loved one is still alive. When a person has Alzheimer's disease, they watch them lose the essence of what made them the person they loved.
Many families are also surprised at the intensity of their grief and bereavement at the time of the death of the person with Alzheimer's disease. They think, I've been grieving this person for so long that I didn't think I would have this powerful a response. But basically what they've been doing is centering their lives around caring for this person, and there's this huge void.
I guess I was kind of numb for a while, but I felt as though he would not have wanted his life to continue in this state that he was in. So perhaps this was a blessing in disguise. So I was able to handle this outwardly pretty well. At home, I had bouts of weeping by myself that went on for quite a period. I guess maybe sometimes on the odd occasion I have it now, but you know, I got over that. But you just know that you have to go on with your life, and you're grateful for all that you did have, you know.